To order, and it's scheduled to run between 6 and 7 p.m. And I'd like to introduce the DPW Director, Kyle Fox, and I am Dawn Twamala. I am the Deputy DPW Director and the Town Engineer. Tonight's meeting falls under the National Historic Preservation Act, Section 106, and due to the proposed Bedford Road Bridge replacement over Babusick Brook, there'll be an impact to the historic Darrah Bridge. The location of that bridge is immediately upstream from the proposed bridge replacement. The New Hampshire Division of Historical Resources has determined that this bridge is eligible to be listed on the National Register of Historic Places. The discussion tonight will center on the proposed adverse effects to the Darrah Bridge, which is an abandoned historical concrete encased steel bridge. As part of the new construction, the Darrah Bridge is scheduled to be removed due to the hydraulic issues with Babusick Brook. Basically, it's constricting the water flow upstream. The meeting is for you to share your views, offer ideas, and considerations in possible solutions as far as the mitigation for the proposed adverse effect of removing the Darrah Bridge. Tonight's presentation will be made by the town's consulting engineering firm, Quantum Construction Consultants. We have the president, Lisa Martin, and the senior project manager, Jim Bouchard, and they'll be describing the historic nature of the Darrah Bridge.
Good evening, everyone. Everybody here okay? Okay. What the process is with the 106, Section 106, it's to involve the public whenever we have an adverse effect on any historic structure. So this presentation is actually very brief. It's to give you an overview of the project, why we're impacting the Darrah Bridge, and to get feedback from the public as to what we should do as mitigation for our adverse effect. So with that, I'll just start the presentation. A little bit about our company. We're a very small engineering firm located in Concord, New Hampshire, and we're very familiar with the bridge replacement projects, especially those funded by the DOT. The 106, as I sort of explained before, is to involve the public. It is a act that was passed by Congress some time ago, and its intent is to preserve historic or archaeological or any cultural resource that's within your community. To give you an overview of the project, what's there right now is a 21-foot corrugated metal pipe. It is corroding, and for those of you that are familiar with Bean Road, it corroded. Bean Road was a similar construction. It corroded very fast. Where it corroded, was on the red list, and boom, it was closed. We're trying to prevent that from occurring in a fast manner right now on this road, because this roadway is heavily traveled. So we're in this process to basically replace this metal pipe. The CMP is severely undersized for the waterway. If you look at the flood photos, essentially the water comes up and over Bedford Road, and it's done it several times. The Darrah Bridge is right upstream of this bridge, and it also restricts the waterway opening. If you look at the stream alignment, you can see the Bedford Road Bridge is a corrugated metal pipe, abbreviated the CMP. You'll see the Darrah Bridge, which is right upstream, and then you'll see the area that's the roadway overtops. Our purpose for this project basically is to be able to provide safe year-round vehicular passage on the Bedford Road. The need is basically because the corrugated metal pipe is undersized and it's deteriorating, and they've had several roadway closures and roadway damage in the past. We studied a number of alternatives for this bridge replacement project, 8 of them. Several of them, probably about 4 or 5, included keeping the Darrah Bridge in place. All of those alternatives indicated that the waterway could not pass the 100-year or 50-year storm or meet any DOT criteria. So it would not meet the purpose and need if we leave the Darrah Bridge in place and replace the Bedford Road Bridge at that location. There was one alternative that we studied where we would actually, where the blue circle is, we would cut through the roadway and make the stream bed go in that location and eliminate the oxbow or leave it in place, but it would not act during, it would not act as your main channel. We had meetings with the DES and Fish and Game, and they essentially said that environmentally it was not the proper thing to do and it would not be acceptable. Some of it was because of stream transport, sediments and velocities and degradation to the stream and water quality. So the alternative that was our preferred alternative is actually replacing the Bedford Road Bridge, the corrugated metal pipe, with a 90-foot span bridge. And that's what is required to pass the 50-year storm with some clearance and the 100-year storm as well. And that also relies on some of the bridge replacements that have already started downstream of this bridge. Our schedule, we've completed the preliminary design in 2016. We're doing final design right now, and we're proposing to bid it this fall and construct it next year. Now we're here today because we're here to talk about the Darrah Bridge. The Darrah Bridge is not, the one that is there right now is not the original bridge. It was originally built sometime in the mid-1800s, and it was named after a local farmer. Then it was replaced in what they think 1923, that era, and it was replaced with beams and concrete encased beams. And the reason that this bridge is considered significant is that there are only a few left in existence today in New Hampshire. And the area of significance is engineering. So to complete the Section 106, what we look for, we start out by going through a process. And what we did was we've already, the check marks indicated, we already gathered information to which properties are affected. And yes, the Darrah Bridge is eligible for the National Register. We explored alternatives to avoid or reduce the harm to the bridge. And that was the alternative where I described where we would reroute the stream. And we determined how the historic properties might be affected. And in our case, what we're proposing is removal of that bridge. Now what we have left to do really is to seek public input to get ideas. What would you like to have for mitigation for the adverse effect of removing this bridge, relocating it, all kinds of ideas. We want to hear from the public. We don't want to place ideas in your head. We want to hear from you what you would like to be done as mitigation. And this slide basically explains who's entitled to be a consulting party. Everybody here, I would say, is entitled to be a consulting party. Your local, the abutters, historic commissions, anybody that really wants to be on the consulting process can be part of it. And what the consulting parties do is share their ideas and views. It may not necessarily mean that that will be the outcome, but we need to hear the ideas, address them, and at least consider them. And then in the end, we have to reach agreement with the State Historic Preservation Office as to what we're going to do for mitigation. And essentially, that's what we did on the McGaw project, where we did take out a historic bridge. There was an adverse effect. We went through this process. So this is very similar if you were involved in that one. So I'm going to cut my presentation short and look for questions, ideas. What can we do to preserve the memory of this bridge or relocate it or you know, what would the people like to see done? Any, go ahead. Is it on?
Before we start, could you locate that bridge for me on the map? I don't get why this bridge causes flooding at Bedford Road if it's upstream of the Bedford Road Bridge. So I'm a little lost.
Okay.
Thank you.
No, the corrugated metal pipe is downstream. The corrugated metal pipe, which is the Bedford Road Bridge, is immediately downstream of the Darrah Bridge. And I think I can find a picture. In this plan view, if you look, the river comes and it does an S, and it comes through the Darrah Bridge, through the culvert, and then around, so that there's waterway on both sides of the roadway. And it restricts the flow because we really need a 90-foot bridge where that corrugated metal pipe is.
Understand. I didn't understand where the Darrah Bridge was.
Yes.
And so the backup from there floods the road, and you're not building up the road high enough to avoid that. Is that the issue?
Right, and the Darrah Bridge is about 25 feet in span. The culvert is 21 feet in span, so automatically the second we open up the culvert to be what it should be, the Darrah Bridge controls the flow, and it will force the water back up over the roadway. And part of the project, we are actually raising the roadway as well as putting in the larger span bridge.
But it'll still flood. It won't be raised enough.
The roadway will not flood after our project under the 100-year storm. Higher than the 100-year storm it may still, but we are raising the roadway. We're opening up the waterway, and we're removing the Darrah Bridge so that we can construct the channel through the new bridge.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Dan Memis. We're one of the abutters, immediate abutters to the bridge, and I could answer several of your questions. The brook flows from left to right on top, above the, cuts under the road and comes back down. Okay. My question is the Historical Commission. They have the final say on this, or, you know, you're saying we will discuss it, we will present and ask questions, but it has to go through them for the final.
It does have to go through them, but part of the process is your ideas. They do not tell us what we can and cannot do.
Okay.
They're looking for ideas from the public as to what is an appropriate mitigation. They may have some ideas of their own that they may share with us, and they are also a consulting party.
Okay. Okay. The flooding, which does occur, we're very aware of, has considerably impacted the back line of our property line. We have banks that are falling down. We are definitely in favor of removing the bridge, either relocating it or completely removing it. At one particular time, there was a brass plaque on that bridge. Does anyone know where that went?
We don't.
It told what the bridge was, right. And all of a sudden it was gone once, and we have no idea where it ended up.
We don't know where it is.
Okay.
It disappeared.
Is it in the town someplace? We don't. I have no idea.
By any chance, do you guys have a picture of the plaque?
No. Oh, I wish we did.
Oh, okay.
But no. But that was just so you know where we're coming from. We're in favor of removing the bridge because, as I say, it does impact our property seriously when it floods.
Okay. Good.
Thank you.
Hi, Tim Tenhave. Two things. So the bridge as it stands, excluding the idea of cost, if we had another location for the bridge, any idea what it would take to lift it, move it, and put it somewhere else?
As far as cost, it depends on
No.
where they move
No,
it to.
actually, no. Let me rephrase
And
the question then. So if we weren't considering cost, can you physically dismantle and move that bridge, or would it crumble and fall apart and not be of any engineering or any other value?
It can be moved if it's braced properly
I see.
during removal and relocation.
All right. Yeah. So the other question I had is, since the McGaw Bridge went through a similar process, what sort of mitigation was done there, so we have an idea?
Sure. They did a interpretive panel that's going to be mounted right on the bridge rail on the bridge, and it basically tells the story of the Jack Arch Bridge that was at McGaw. We do have a inventory historic report on the Darrah Bridge that could be used as a guide to create a similar plaque. And we do have a sidewalk being proposed on this bridge that it could also be mounted there or somewhere on the adjacent property. But since we're raising the road, it makes sense to keep it up at the roadway level or sidewalk.
Yeah, I would think some sort of memorial to the bridge that it describes what was there would be really pertinent and be interesting to have. So.
Okay, good.
As to moving the bridge, that bridge at one time, only less than a year ago, had a couple of trees that were, one of them was probably about 8 feet tall and one was probably about 10 feet tall, that got cut down when the town decided to pay attention and when this started in. And then they came through and they did mow and things. And I have pictures documenting this, that there were trees on that. The bridge itself, the concrete itself, is breaking up. The sidewalls, I would assume that removal of the bridge means the sides also, not just the bed, the base, because that's part of the restriction of the water flow. And the water flow restriction is a major, major part, and that's part of the reason of the water crossing the road further upstream, where you were talking about maybe redirecting. We are, because of the damage that has occurred because of the water flow and the 100-year flood. Well, it happened in 2006, and then the 100-year flood. Well, it happened in 2007 again, so something, and we've been close to it a couple of other times since then. I'm really in favor of the removal, unfortunately, but with a sign, one of the historic markers or something like that, documenting what was there, yes. But it unfortunately, I think that it has to come out. And I do have, like I say, I've got photographs that if you want them, I'll give them to you of the various damages and when there was high water and that sort of thing that you can take with you.
Oh,
Okay.
that'd be great. Appreciate it.
Yes, I'm Dave Coda. My wife and I both agree that the bridge should come out because of the way it holds back the water, and something be dedicated to it on the new bridge. Simple as that. But we both agree it should come out.
I guess if there, I mean, we have time. I guess if there's no more questions on the Darrah Bridge, we could answer a few questions on the bridge replacement, other than I did describe that it will be a 90-foot span, typical steel bridge. It's 4 to 5 feet at the lowest point. So, that'd be the greatest rise is between 4 and 5 feet, I believe. Is that correct? Yes.
Part of the with the new bridge, because of the girder depth and everything like that, we have to bring the roadway up. So 3.8 feet is approximately the maximum high point of how much we're raising the bridge at the CMP. Now, at the low point, that's about 5 feet, excuse me. At the low point, it's about 3.8 feet to make sure we're above the 100-year flood, so it doesn't cause the 100-year. It's not going to cause a damming effect. The water will, as Lisa has already said, the water will pass through the proposed bridge when the Darrah Bridge constriction is removed, and the impacts that have already been noted to various property owners will be mitigated by the bigger bridge. Yeah, we're in the process right now in the preliminary plans. There will be easements. As required for the construction, they will be up to the town. We'll do the drafts of them, identify where they are, and the town will then undertake the negotiations as they may be required.
During construction, what is the road configuration going to be?
During construction, what's being proposed right now is, because of the high volume of traffic out on there, and because of the presence of the school and stuff, it is a one-lane detour road that basically would go to the upstream side of the existing CP. What was showing up on the drawing up as a corrugated metal pipe would go over where the existing Darrah Bridge is now. We'll put a temporary bridge in. So so traffic would be a single lane of traffic be diverted to the upstream side through the construction process while we remove the existing CMP, build the new bridge, raise the roads, and then put it back in. Once the detour road will require some phasing where it comes back into the existing roadway because of the grade changes. So there'll be some phasing and it has to swap back and forth. But that's the idea. Is it'll be a single lane. There will be temporary traffic signals. These are portable traffic signals that would control the traffic on both sides of the project and also for Pearson Road as it comes down in. So we have one lane of traffic through the project site. It's similar to. I grew up in the construction industry, and everybody. I've done a number of these meetings, and everybody says, "How are you going to build a sewer in the ground? We're going to dig it up. We're going to make a mess, and when we're all done, it's all going to be paved and put back together." And the flooding that's been talked about by various people, for the storm events of similar nature that we just had, you will not have. But until that time, yes, it's going to be a mess.
These were not jobs, these were careers. These were, it took forever to be done. What's the estimated time?
As similar as what you already saw in town, you're talking a year's worth of work. By the time the contract is awarded, by the time you get what we call the submittal process, where all the materials, the contractor has fabrication drawings for the steel girders done by the steel manufacturer, brought back to our firm for review and get back and forth. Then by the time you start the actual work and by the time you finally complete open, it's a year-long process. It's just there's no other really good way of streamlining. We've worked with we've had numerous meetings with Kyle trying to figure out how we can accelerate this. We've also put in the contract will have tight time windows for the so the road closure is put to a minimum and everything, but it's that's pushing on a 90-foot bridge, buddy. That's pushing the timeline. Gentleman back, you had a question, I believe.
I just wanted a quick clarification. You said the chapter was going to be diverted onto a different road. I didn't hear.
It's going to be a construction road built in the site just north of the CMP. You see where the Darrah Bridge is now?
Yeah.
It's a single lane bridge that will, or single lane road that will go over the bridge. The bridge site, there'll be a temporary bridge put in, and then once the roadway is opened for the bridge and the roadway is open for traffic, then all that is removed and the area is restored. Mr. Cota?
Yes, what's that going to do to the duplex as far as the bridge, this bridge here and the temporary road in the back of the duplex?
The back of the duplex, the White House up
The building you see.
what it will do is it will come right back in. The idea, we're not going out onto what I believe is your property. It's not going to, there's also a 24-inch CMP that runs through that area. It basically comes back before that, doesn't stay on that alignment, because we got to get back and straightened up before it gets onto Pearson. So it's not, it's going to be elevated. There'll be a slight grade change. Yeah, we assume that they'll the temporary bridge will be somewhat elevated a little bit, but they can't go up very high because of their proximity to the Babusick Brook. We can't put fill in it for a temporary roadway. So it's pretty much going to be at grade and scoot back up to get onto the intersection of Bedford Road and Pearson.
What's the construction of the stream bed going to be once the bridge is in?
Approaching the new bridge will be the natural stream bed. We will cut back the banks where the Darrah Bridge is, and put stone fill or riprap that would stabilize those banks. And then through the structure area, because we're taking out a corrugated metal pipe, we're actually going to run our riprap down the banks under the bridge, similar to the photo I showed right there. And you'll have a sloping grade in front of the bridge, and then that riprap will go through the channel, but we will cover the top of the riprap in the stream bed with a natural stream bed. Because we're excavating out, we'll have the contractor save that material and put it back on top of the stone so that the natural stream bed will be continuous.
Mr. Cota?
Yes, what about the 36-inch pipe, just, you call it downstream?
The 36.
On the north side of the bridge. The old bridge. There's a 36-inch pipe down through there.
Yeah.
Across Pearson Road.
It comes down Pearson Road. There's a.
Right out just before the bridge.
Comes down. We are not interfering, or our scope of work doesn't go anywhere near the 36-inch. The 24-inch corrugated metal pipe that currently runs and is outlets in the head wall for the Darrah Bridge, or the I should say the retaining wall that comes up towards your property. That, since it's corrugated metal pipe and it's subject to the same conditions that the bridge on Bedford Road is, just corrodes and gets out. We are proposing to replace that culvert with,
Leave the head wall there.
no, head wall's coming out. Well, there'll be eventually an easement with you to get in, or some sort of instrument so we can get in and take that whole head wall out and grade that back a little bit and make it much more attractive. The head wall is integral to the Darrah Bridge, so if we take off the Darrah Bridge and only leave a piece of it, we don't have a full set of plans for that. We can't comment on the stability of it. Last thing we want to do is walk away and then have the thing fall over. So it all becomes part of the removal process. Well, we thank you for your interest and your comments, and we'll put them together and as we move forward with the process, and the DPW will be very much aware, and they're a participant in this also, and as we go forward, and hopefully we'll have a very successful project, albeit a year long. I apologize for that, but that's what it's going to take, and we'll get this straightened out, cleaned up. Thank you.
And there is also a comment sheet that if you think of something after the meeting, please email me or fill out that comment sheet and mail it in. We'd like to hear from people.
Or you can get in touch with us too, and we